everyone, and welcome to Tea and Lit. I'm super excited to announce the first book that we'll be going through. I am super pumped. When my brother and I were considering starting this project, there was no question in our minds which book we wanted to start with, because this is just the best of the best of the best. And you'll probably hear me say that a lot, particularly books by this author, because he's amazing. And I just want to tell you, I just want to get into it. The book we will be starting out with is Othello by William Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare, and I particularly love Othello. It is my favorite of his works that I have read. I haven't read all of them, but it's my favorite play. I've never seen it performed, but reading it is just so phenomenal. I think there's so many messages in this book that I think are really important for people, especially during this time, in this state of our world right now, with the influx of racial injustice and an awareness of historical racial injustices. Shakespeare was so ahead of his time here with Othello, and I think there's a lot to be learned from it in today's world. And so I am super, super excited to be going through this book with you guys as our first book here on Tea and Lit. A little bit of background on the story is that it centers around a man named Othello, who is a Moor. The Moorish people were North African Muslims who came up to Europe during the Middle Ages. So he's black. He is married to a Venetian woman, fair Desdemona, who is a white woman. And so there is some challenge and conflict between the two, not necessarily between the two of them, sort of between the two of them, and external forces semi-based on race. So we'll be going over that more in the videos to come, but that's something to go in being aware of. So our two main characters so far are Othello and Desdemona. Some other characters that are really important to us are Iago, who is Othello's friend. He is our antagonist in this story, and there's a lot to learn about Iago and his personality. I have some theories on Iago that I really would love to hear your opinions on as we go through this story, because I don't know. When I heard other people talk about Othello, I think that they have one view and my view is not necessarily the same. Whatever. We'll get there when we get there. Four is going to be Rodrigo. Rodrigo is another pal of Iago's, sort of. And he's in love with Desdemona, but there's challenges, obviously, because Desdemona is married to Othello. 5 is going to be Cassio, and Cassio is the general. Othello's a general. I don't think I mentioned that. Othello is a military general, and Cassio is his person in charge of the island of Cyprus. And so most of the story will be taking place in Cyprus, a little bit in Venice. The first act is in Venice, the rest is in Cyprus, and Cassio has been stationed in Cyprus. And then the sixth person, the last person I want to talk about, is Emilia, and she is married to Iago, and she's also Desdemona's like lady in waiting. I don't really know if she has like a particular title. She's like her handmaiden is what I would call her. And so yeah, those are our main characters. The setting is Cyprus and Venice. The conflict is the marriage between Othello and Desdemona and all of the different pieces coming around that. So at the center of the story is their marriage, and all of the other players in the story and their views on that marriage and their views on the individual characters is what we'll be going through. So I am super excited to be going through this with you guys. We're going to be doing one act a day, so be sure you are subscribed so you can check it out, and you can see what we're doing with each day, with each act in the wonderful book of Othello. I did create some helpful notes for you guys if you want them. I will put a link to those in the description box below so that you can check those out, because I do know that Shakespeare can be tough to get through. So if you want, I've been thinking about this, doing a video about like tips to get through Shakespeare, because there's so much to appreciate, but I do know that a lot of people struggle. I struggled with Shakespeare back in the day, but he has come into my heart. So what else? Anything else I want to say about our introduction for Othello before we get into it? I don't think so. Thank you all so much. I'm super excited to be going through this book with you guys, so be sure you grab yourself a copy of William Shakespeare's Othello, and let's get reading.